Coming off a 30-24 win over their in-state rival Georgia Southern, and then an off week on the schedule, Georgia State football headed to Moscow, Idaho this week for their final game of the regular season. You're watching the Georgia State Sports Update. Hi again, Panther fans, and welcome into our opening segment here in the Georgia State Sports Update, our weekly show covering Georgia State athletics. And today we're pleased to be joined in studio here in this segment, the interim head football coach and our receivers coach, and that's Tim Lepanto. Coach, great to have you in here. And congrats, Georgia State, a 30-24 win over Georgia Southern, and that makes it 2 years in a row of the 3 years we've been playing FBS football in the Sun Belt that this team has managed to win over the team down south, as we all refer to them to.
Yeah, that was a heck of a day. I was really happy for our seniors because they're the ones that get the bragging rights.
Sure.
Like I mentioned earlier, I think that our young kids are going to get to go at it for 3 or 4 more years, but our seniors, they get the bragging rights because, we lost down there a couple years ago bad.
Yeah.
And then we got them a year ago, and they came up here and we got them. So the seniors left here with bragging rights.
Well, not only was it senior day, but believe it or not, with the whole Georgia State Stadium, formerly known as Turner Field, going on, it was the final game ever for Georgia State football in the Georgia Dome. We started in September of 2010 with a win in the inaugural game, and the Panthers close out their play in the building with a big win over the in-state rival.
That was awesome for those kids. That's big time for those guys to be able to win in front of their parents, their family, the fans. Everybody got to see them defeat their rival in Georgia Dome for the last time. Man, that's history. That's good stuff.
Hey, kudos to you and the rest of the coaching staff. It was a tough situation with Coach Miles. It happened pretty quickly after Louisiana Monroe, and then you got to turn around and get ready for Georgia Southern. I mean, that could not have been an easy situation to be in the middle of, yet you guys, I think, coaches and players handled it pretty well, and the result, the final score, kind of showed that.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is we have good character kids here, and they kind of recommended me, for the job, number one, and Charlie, listened to them, and we made the transition as smooth as we could, and I can't say enough about our players and our coaches, too, for the way they've handled it as professionals. And we've had great practices. We just got off the field a little while ago, beat the rain, so they're staying very positive, and they're having fun out there. And we have one more game to play, and anytime you roll the ball out there, you want to win. And so we're going up to Moscow, Idaho, and win a football game.
Again, we're going to talk about the Panthers' trip to Idaho coming up. Sticking with Georgia Southern, though, again, a big win. You put 30 points up on the board, 20 of them in the first quarter on the first 3 possessions. I mean, came out of the gate absolutely on fire. Connor Manning was on fire. He had a great afternoon, 318 yards, 2 touchdowns, 21 of 39 passing. I mean, he was clicking on all cylinders right from the get-go in that game.
I think it was really important that we come out fast. We've struggled a little bit early in games to do anything on offense, and I thought it was really important that we come out and attack them vertically down the field because that's what we do best.
Right.
And we were able to do that. And I really believe that Connor Manning, you saw a little bit more healed up Connor Manning. I don't think he's been at full strength the last couple of weeks when he hurt his arm. And I see that even today. He's pretty strong right now. But he wasn't 100% against Georgia Southern, but he was pretty close, and he threw it pretty well. And we were able to jump on top of him really quickly, and we needed to because in a rival game, they're competitors, and they don't want to lose either. And they came back and made a game of it. So I knew that it was going to come down to the fourth quarter. And we showed some resiliency in the fourth quarter and put a score on them on offense and then held them on defense and won the game.
And how about some of the guys that you work with on a regular basis? Keith Rucker, 8 catches, 145 yards. Glenn Smith on the receiving end of 7 catches, 65 yards, a touchdown. And Robert Davis, who we're going to talk to in an upcoming segment on the show this week, had 4 catches for a touchdown as well. So the go-to guys you were able to go to, and they were able to make big plays.
Well, those are our playmakers, and those are guys that we have to find ways to get them to make plays. I think coaches' jobs are really simple. Get your best players to football, and those 3 guys right there are good football players that need to touch the ball And I thought we did a really nice job moving them around and getting them matched up on some guys that we thought we could take advantage of, and that's what happened.
You know, I know in doing the radio pregame with you prior to Georgia Southern, one of the first items of detail that you wanted to do your best to correct was special teams, especially after what happened in the Louisiana Monroe game. And you guys, for the most part, did a much better job of encompassing the entire special teams unit.
Yeah, I thought we did. We had a block kick, and I thought, oh no, this is exactly what I didn't want to have happen. But we made some adjustments and some corrections in that, and made a couple moves that ended up helping us. And Brandon kicked the ball extremely well for us. And I thought he stepped up big, and I thought our protection stepped up on the punt team. It stepped up on the field goal, and they did a great job. And we had to be able to get that correct in order to win a football game like that.
Then the off week comes at a great time. Coming off a big win, so you get to take all the positive energy that comes off beating your in-state rival into an off week, and there were some nicks and bruises, so the off week gives you a little bit of time to get some of these guys healed up before you play the final game of the regular season.
It did do that. We got out there on Monday and Tuesday and had 2 really good practices, so I call those bonus days,
right,
where we get 2 extra days to prepare for Idaho. And then we took care of our guys, and we gave them, they got 4 days off to go home and spend Thanksgiving and the holidays with their families. And I saw a lot of guys back, Sunday. They had a smile on their face. Some of those guys were feeling a lot better. Some guys are still a little bit nicked up, but feeling a lot better than they did. So I thought, that's going to bode well for us. That was huge. And again, we're off to a good start right now.
Again, it certainly makes for a much more pleasant Thanksgiving, going back a week and a half to be able to win that game than to lose that game and then have to deal with it as you get ready for an off week and then knowing that you've got to go out west. You've been here since 2014, 22 seniors on this football team. Some of them we've talked about. Anyone in particular or any few in particular guys that kind of stand out, guys that have had memorable careers here at Georgia State in the time that you've been here? Well, especially the guys you've worked with amongst the receiving corps. Yeah,
Robert Davis. I can't say enough about Robert Davis. Mm-hmm. When I first came here, I thought, I saw the athleticism, but I could understand where he didn't get recruited like he probably should have, because coming out of the high school, Northside High School down there in Warner Robins area, that they run the football, and they're very successful doing that. And the head coach there, I've known for a couple years now and have a lot of respect for him, and he runs a great program down there. But they run the football for a living, and they win championships, so nothing changed. So when he got up here, he was really raw. And he's a very coachable young man that wants to get better, lived in my office basically in the off season and watched Calvin Johnson, watched a lot of receivers that I had and studied them, and got better and better every year. And he had a good year last year, but he's a lot better route runner. I was talking to a number of scouts the past couple months about him, and they see, the work that he's put in. He's getting it out of his route tops a lot better, catching the ball clean, and he has so much athleticism that it makes the game pretty easy for him. So, with his dimension and his skill set and measurables, at 6'3" and 218 pounds, and he's a high 4'4" kid, and he's verticals over 40 inches. I think that he can find a home in the National Football League. I really do.
Again, Robert Davis, senior wide receiver, all-time leading receiver in Georgia State football history, and we're going to talk to him coming up in our next segment a little bit later on in the show. Meantime, again, a 30-24 win. Georgia State a win over Georgia Southern, and our Jared Oliver goes behind the scenes at the Georgia Dome. Again, Georgia State football's final game at the Georgia Dome, and he puts an exclamation point on the moniker State, not Southern.
Here we are, rivalry week is here. Georgia Southern comes to town to face Georgia State. Now, this is one of the most talked about games of the year for both schools. But keep in mind that this is also the final game for the Panthers here in the Georgia Dome.
We're looking for a good game today because the way I think our game went last year was great, and we need to build on that. Plus, we didn't really like the fans down there last year. They weren't too nice to us. So we're going to be hospitable today and show them how a true classy team should act.
Okay, so we're here with two Georgia Southern fans at a Georgia State tailgate. You guys are pretty much in an uncharted territory, so tell me, what are you guys doing out here?
You know, we're just coming out here to show you who your daddy is, you know?
All right, so I see you got the grill going. What do you think is going to happen in today's game?
Most definitely Southern's going to win. I highly recommend that we're definitely going to win.
By how much?
I want to say it's close. The only reason I say that is because our win-loss streak is honestly about the same as Georgia State. So I give it at least to us by about 2 touchdowns. I believe that.
Okay, cool. All right, now last year it was 34-7 at Southern, the worst loss in Statesboro ever. Do you think that's going to happen again?
Oh, it'll definitely happen to y'all.
You think
For
so?
sure. Oh, of course.
What do you think?
I think it's going to be just like 2 years ago when we came up here and put 62 on the board, and it was about 28 maybe, I think it was a State. But that sounds about right. Yeah.
All right, there you have it. 2 Southern fans at a Georgia State tailgate.
I mean, they ain't nothing. That's basically it. I mean, yeah. Proving that they're nothing. I mean, that's what it's all about. So, of course, we went down there, stopped them, and they got quiet.
My best moment is going that 4-game win streak and beating Georgia Southern, our rival last year. And so that was an amazing win. It felt like winning the Super Bowl game. That's how big the rivalry is.
Again, some of the highlights there, Georgia State, Georgia Southern. Jared Oliver taking us behind the scenes against State, not Southern. Georgia State with a big win over their in-state rival. Now all the attention turns, coming off an off week, to the final game of the regular season. Panthers got to go all the way out to Moscow, Idaho, and take on the Idaho Vandals. They are 7-4, one of the surprise football teams in the Sun Belt Conference. And gentleman to my left, who's Georgia State's interim football coach, probably knows as much about Idaho as anybody because you played there and you coach there, and you're very familiar with Moscow, Idaho, so you can kind of be our tour guide as you get ready to take the football team out there to Moscow.
Yeah, Dave, it's been a long time since I've been back. I think somebody a couple days ago was asking me, and I think it's been over 20 years. But
oh, wow.
I know a lot about the area. I know a lot about the program, and it's going to be fun for our guys because this time of the year up in that part of the country, you can get all kinds of different weather, but we're going to be in a dome. And it's going to be fun for our kids. We aren't going to have to worry about the snow, the wind, the rain, or anything. So we can go up there and do our thing in a nice climate.
So you played at Idaho. Do you remember going back? I know you're not that old, but what it was like to play at Idaho and how you came to be recruited and play your college football up at Idaho and go to school there.
Well, I had a really good senior year at Gonzaga Prep High School in Spokane, Washington, and I was recruited by Washington State, but I thought that Idaho and a guy named Dennis Erickson did a better job, so I went to Idaho. We had a guy named John Yarno, who was an All-American center for us, and they did a nice job recruiting me there, and I had a really good fast start as a freshman there, and I was the newcomer of the year there, and I think I rushed for close to 500 yards. Good people in that area treated me really well there. A lot of good teammates. We had a lot of fun. It was a little bit bittersweet. I had a couple hamstring pulls up in my junior and senior years. I had hamstring trouble, but played with a lot of great guys that I still connect with. So it'll be fun to bring Georgia State back up there and reconnect with some of those people, and yet still try to win the football game.
Well, you started your coaching career there as well. As you mentioned, you played under Dennis Erickson. You then coached under him. Did you know you wanted to get into coaching?
I really didn't. I didn't think I'd want to do that. I got injured. I had a serious head injury my senior year. I was off to a really good start, averaging 165 yards a game against some really good schools. Fresno State was one of them. And I got a severe concussion, and I was out 8 weeks, which, the end of the year was over for me. So right. I started helping. I had 5 different position coaches in 5 years there. So I wanted to help the position coach because he'd never coached on offense before. So I started kind of liking it then, and Dennis Erickson promised my mom and dad that I was going to graduate, and I was a free agent with the Houston Oilers. and I tore my hamstring in training camp, and I had really nothing to do after that, and he got the head job there, and he called me up, and he said, you didn't finish your school, and I promised your mom and dad you're going to do that. Get back down here and be a grad assistant for me. And that's where it all started. And we had really good years there. We won a lot of games. We won a Big Sky championship, and those were really fun years.
So you end up coaching not only at Idaho, but your coaching career is taking you to Washington State, to Oregon State, into the NFL, most recently with the Lions, but also going back with the 49ers and the Seahawks.
Yeah, I've had 8 years in the National Football League. I coached the running backs at the Seattle Seahawks in, I think it was 98. And then I coached at the San Francisco 49ers. I coached the running backs again there, and I think it was 2004 and 5, I believe. All good stops, good people. I was very fortunate to coach some really great players. Obviously, Calvin Johnson is the best athlete I've ever coached, and is even a better person.
Again, Coach Tim Lepanto, the interim head football coach and receivers coach, with us here on the Georgia State Sports Update. And the only reason I kind of recapped is because it's all come full circle now.
It has.
You're bringing Georgia State football back out to Moscow, Idaho, as the interim head coach.
Yeah, who had ever thought that I'd be back to Idaho, bringing Georgia State up there to play my alma mater. So it's been fun. I've really enjoyed every stop. I've coached at a number of schools out on the West Coast, and in Purdue was probably the only school that in Georgia State that wasn't on the West Coast in the collegiate level that I've coached at. But have really enjoyed it. I say this is, it's an honor and a pleasure to do this for a living. I get in the car every day and have always enjoyed driving to work. And I don't think a lot of people can say that. And I've never had a bad job. And I've liked everybody every stop I've been on, I've really enjoyed. And again, I've always enjoyed going to work, and I think that's pretty special when you can say that. Even when we've had some tough years, I still get to go outside and work with young people, and that's what it's all about.
All right, so let's do a quick scouting report here on Idaho. Again, 7-4, 5-2. They're in the league, the Sun Belt, I believe, for this. The rest, obviously, this final game, and then next year, and then they go down to the FCS level to the Big Sky. But they're bowl eligible for the first time since 2009.
Yeah, congratulations to Coach Petrino and his staff for flipping it. They had a rough year a year ago, and he's done a great job up there. They're a 7-win season right now. And again, it comes full circle because the guy that drives that engine is a good friend of mine, and I worked for his dad. Scott Linehan played quarterback for us when I was coaching at Idaho.
Right.
His son's Matt Linehan, and is a really good football player. And he drives that engine there. He's a coach's kid. He's been around the business his whole life. He knows where to go with the football. He gets the ball out. He's very accurate. So I think we're going to have to try to make him a little bit uncomfortable, because if you just sit back there and let that kid throw the football, he's going to carve you up.
Well, Coach, great having you here in studio. Let's get out to Moscow, Idaho. It'll be a nice homecoming for you, even though you haven't been there in a number of years. But let's get out there and let's get out of there with a win.
Absolutely. We're going up there to win a football game.
All right. Again, want to thank interim head football coach and receivers coach Tim Lepanto joining us here in studio on the Georgia State Sports Update. And again, Georgia State a winner over Georgia Southern, 30-24 last week in the Georgia Dome, or actually 2 weeks ago in the Georgia Dome. Right now, let's take a look at some of the highlights of that Georgia State win over Georgia Southern. And those were some of the highlights from Georgia State's win over Georgia Southern 2 weeks ago in the Georgia Dome, which was the final game for Georgia State in the Georgia Dome, 30-24, the final score. Panthers get the win. Joined in studio by right now by one of our seniors, and that's senior wide receiver Robert Davis. And great to have you here. And no doubt, after watching some of those highlights, great win for Georgia State, beating Georgia Southern. That's 2 years in a row. You've got you got the guys from down south.
Yeah, it's a wonderful feeling. Wonderful feeling. You know, it's kind of hard to sit here and say, oh, we have another game, you know, coming up, when it's like, dang, I wish I could have went out on that note. But, you know, guys are getting prepared and getting ready to go play Idaho.
Well, that was the situation a year ago. The final game was down in Statesboro. You went down there and beat them down there to earn the program's first bowl win. There was a lot of hype and a lot of expectation during the offseason. Obviously, this season has not gone the way that everyone would have liked. But right now, the goal is to, coming off a Georgia Southern win in an off week, to go to Idaho and finish as strong as possible and win out the final 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, we've been derailed by a lot of injuries this year. You know, getting adjusted to a new quarterback, that's always going to be, you know, an adjustment to make for any football team across the nation.
Right.
So, you know, that's one thing that we have started to get adjusted to more late in the season. And, you know, right now, you know, for guys like me that won't be here next year, you know, it's my responsibility to make sure that we do go out on a good note so that we can carry, you know, that momentum into next year for, you know, the guys that are coming up that'll be seniors and juniors to, you know, be able to flourish into next season.
Going into the Georgia Southern game, it was a kind of a tumultuous week prior because after the game prior to Georgia Southern, obviously Coach Miles was, you know, relieved of his duties. And, you know, once again, everybody has to kind of stop on a dime and adjust, you know, to the way Coach Lepanto does things, but adjust also to the fact that, you know, Coach Miles wasn't going to be there anymore.
I mean, yeah, first and foremost, I have, you know, the utmost love and respect for Coach Miles because, you know, without Coach Miles, guys like, you know, me, Keith Rucker, Penny Hart, we wouldn't probably even be playing football, and if we were playing, it wouldn't be at the Division I level. So, I mean, he's given a lot of guys, you know, great opportunities, you know, for people like me to have an opportunity to maybe go on to the next level. It would have probably never happened without Coach Miles. So I have a lot of utmost respect for him, and I also have a lot of respect for, you know, Coach Tim Lepanto because that's my receiver coach, and he's almost like a second father to me, and I've never been able in my life to call somebody like a second father to me. So I have a lot of respect for both of those guys, and, you know, I mean, I'll always be faithful and loyal to, you know, Coach Miles.
Again, Robert Davis, Georgia State wide receiver, with us here on the Georgia State Sports Update. You know, you talk about Coach Lepanto, who's been your receivers coach here the last couple of years. He's coached some of the greats in the National Football League here in the last decade. You know, how much have you learned and taken away from him, you know, in the last few years since he got to Georgia State in 2014?
Oh, a lot. I mean, I credit him for, you know, 90% of my success, and the other 10% was the year that he wasn't here. So, I mean, I credit him a lot for my success. I mean, he's taught me so much, and I mean, I can never, you know, pay him back for what he's done for me. But like you said, he has coached the greats like Calvin Johnson, you know, guys like that, and even guys that, you know, weren't put as a high, you know, pedestal as Calvin Johnson, because I mean, a lot of people don't know that he did coach Chad Ochocinco in college.
Mm-hmm.
You know, T.J. Houshmandzadeh. He coached a lot of great receivers. So, I mean, he's able to relate a lot of the stuff that they did, or maybe stuff that they may have taught him, you know, as far as route running. He's able to implement that and teach it to us. So, you know, I mean, I credit him for a lot. I mean, I feel like he's a really, really good coach who, you know, even if, you know, with the new coaching staff, if he's not a part of that, I feel like he'll be able to go out somewhere and help somebody a lot.
And, you know, you're a good story because, correct me if I'm wrong, did you have 11 catches your senior year in high school down there in Warner Robins? You played on a high school team that was primarily a run-oriented offense. Mm-hmm. As you mentioned, Coach Miles and the staff give you an opportunity at Georgia State. You come here, and I know you and I talked about this recently, never expecting to pick up all the accolades that you've picked up and will walk away and leave Georgia State with, including the all-time leading receiver, surpassing Albert Wilson.
Yeah, actually it was 9 catches. You know, my senior year said 11, so I appreciate you boosting me up a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, it's been an amazing journey. I mean, it's been amazing. Like you said, I mean, all the stuff that I've accomplished here were things that, you know, weren't even on my mind, you know, coming out of high school, because I wasn't able to, you know, contribute to my high school team like I do here at Georgia State. You know, with having a guy that plays running back or receiver for us now as my quarterback, I mean, that kind of lets you know that, you know, passes weren't really getting thrown a lot out there. But it is a great program out there at Northside, by the way, so it's against them. But I mean, like you said, being able to break, records of guys like Albert Wilson, that's just amazing to me because he was the guy that was here to show me the ropes, like I show younger guys like Penny Hart, he was that guy for me. So being able to break, his record was an amazing thing. And I know if Penny Hart comes and, breaks my record in, 3 years, maybe 2 years, it'll be an amazing feeling for him as well.
All right, real quick, career leader in receptions and receiving yards, and you're going to participate in the NFL PA Collegiate Bowl in Los Angeles. I know everybody's proud that you're going to be out there, but it's exciting at the same time for you personally to head out to California and participate in that and hopefully, take it to the next level.
Yeah, it's just another step in the journey, Like I said, it's been an outstanding journey here. I was really excited to be able to, really excited and blessed to have an opportunity to go and play in a game where there's going to be, a lot of big-time college players and get a chance to, just show what I can do against, those Power 5 guys, because I don't get the chance to do that here every week. We play Wisconsin and teams like that, but I don't get a chance to do it on a consistent basis. And I feel like it'll give me a chance to, show what I can do against those big-time talents.
Well, before we let you go, one of my favorite Robert Davis touchdown catches, 75 yards at Oregon. On the pass from Nick Arbuckle. Still love to see that highlight.
Yes, that's one of those things that you remember 30, 40 years down the line if I'm blessed to live that long. I just feel like that's one of those things I'll be able to tell my kids, and I mean that's one of my favorites as well. Well, that one maybe in Wisconsin, in that big time environment.
Right. Well, Robert, appreciate you being here with us in studio, and let's go to Idaho and close out the season with a win.
Yes, sir.
All right, again, I want to thank Georgia State senior wide receiver Robert Davis joining us here in the Georgia State Sports Update. Time now to take a look at what's coming up on the Georgia State athletics calendar. Coming up on Saturday, December 3rd, women's basketball, crosstown at Georgia Tech, 2 p.m. at McCamish Pavilion. Saturday, December 3rd, again, Robert and I will be out in Moscow, Idaho. They're going to kick it off against the Idaho Vandals at 4:30 airtime if you're with us on the radio. On Sunday, December 4, men's basketball heading over to Starkville, Mississippi, going to take on Mississippi State at 5 p.m. Time now to take a look at Panthers in the National Football League this past weekend. Albert Wilson with the Kansas City Chiefs. Albert had 2 catches in their overtime win over the Denver Broncos this past Sunday night. Will Lutz, the place kicker for the New Orleans Saints, a perfect 7 for 7 in PATs. The Saints with a win over the Los Angeles Rams, and Ulrich John of the Arizona Cardinals here in Atlanta. First career start against the Atlanta Falcons. Best of luck to all 3 of those Panthers as they continue their careers in the National Football League. Hopefully Robert will be there next year. I want to thank the entire crew for interim head coach Tim Lepanto and Robert Davis. Dave Cohen here. We'll see you next week on the Georgia State Sports Update.